I remember I stopped by the church as I was passing through halfway across America on my way to California. And I stopped to see if there was a service going on. Of course, Pastor Grant Sr. was preaching. And so he called me up on the platform because I had been his son's youth pastor in Toledo, Ohio. And so as I was sitting on the platform, as he was preaching, all of a sudden the spirit of fear came over me. I felt an intense spirit of fear. And remember, fear is a demon.
Right.
And so I began to feel the spirit of fear. And I thought to myself, as I sat there on that platform, I was halfway across America, I thought, what am I going to do when I get to California? I don't know anybody in California. I don't have a bunch of invitations to preach in California. I thought, I'm sitting on the platform, and I said, God, what if I go out to California and I starve to death? I don't know what all I'm going is on an impression that you gave me that I'm supposed to start my ministry over in California. What if I fall flat on my face and get out in California and starve? And as I was sitting there feeling the spirit of fear overwhelm me, little Pastor Grant Sr., he was down preaching at the time. And I remember as I sat there on the platform, I said, Lord, will you just give me a scripture? Now, I've never been a person that tells people, to randomly open their Bible and choose a scripture, because I heard about a man that was feeling very depressed, and he opened his Bible up, said, God, give me a word, and he opened his Bible up, and the scripture he put his finger on and said, and Judas hung himself. So, you can't randomly
right.
choose scriptures, which, but at that point in my life, I said, God, I really need a word from you. And please, God, just give me a word that I'm going to be all right when I get to California. I'm 19 years old. I'm sitting on Pastor Grant's platform. I'm only halfway across America. I've got to drive the other half of the way. I barely have enough money to get to California. And so I opened my Bible up randomly and I put my finger on a scripture. And the scripture I put my finger on was Isaiah chapter 41 and verse 10. And here's what God said in Isaiah 41 and verse 10. Folks, listen to this. He said, fear not, for I am with you. Don't be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you, and I will uphold you with my righteous hand. Now, that's the scripture God led me to. That's one time I know the Spirit of God caused my Bible to fall right open and my finger to fall right in a scripture that I had to have. Suddenly, great faith rose up in my heart, and I knew that even though I didn't know anybody in California and I didn't have enough money to do much more than get there, I knew some way, somehow, that when I got to California, just as I had had an impression from God that God was going to open the doors and I was going to do just fine. Now, it's funny what happened, because after service was over, little Pastor Grant Sr., and he came to me and he opened his wallet up. He said, Danny Davis, do you need anything? And I said, no, Brother Grant, I'm fine. I said, I'm all right. And he was getting some money out of his wallet. He said, you sure you don't need any money? I said, no, I'm all right. And then he began to pitch me. And he said, Danny Davis, how would you like to be the youth pastor here? And he began to say, I have an apartment right there over top of the church that I'll let you live in, and I'll give you this much every week. And I'd like for you to be my youth pastor the same way you were my son's youth pastor. And he said, I'll do this for you and I'll do that for you. And I had to look at Brother Grant. Now, this was probably only an hour after God had given me that scripture. And I said, Brother Grant, I thank you for offering me a job as your youth pastor, but God is taking me to California. See, that scripture, Isaiah 41 and 10, it was the confirmation I needed that I was on the right track. And I remember as I got in my car and drove away from Souls Harbor Church in Dallas, Texas that night, that I knew some way, somehow, when I got to California, that God was going to begin to open doors, and that's exactly what he did. When I got to California, revival doors began to open to me, and I began to have some really great revivals, and it was as though I'd never had a season out of the ministry. This door began to open, and that door began to open. I began to have revivals all over California, and they were great revivals. And so God confirmed his word, Isaiah 41 and 10. I want to read it to you again. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you, and I will uphold you with my righteous hand.